Good evening, I'm Katy Tur in New York, in for Chuck Todd, and welcome to MTP Daily. As if things in Washington couldn't get any crazier, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, who oversees the Russia investigation, is staying on, despite a frenzy of speculation today that he'd be gone. Both sides are scrambling to figure out what the president is going to do. A person close to the White House described the current situation among the president's allies as chaos. There were leaks that Rosenstein was going to resign during a meeting at the White House today. But multiple sources tell NBC News that Rosenstein made it clear that he wouldn't go unless the president personally fired him, which the president hasn't done, at least not yet. Of course, this comes after that bombshell New York Times story claiming Rosenstein suggested last year that he wear a wire in the Oval Office, a remark that sources tell NBC News was made sarcastically, and Rosenstein has called the report factually incorrect. Still, there were reports that Rosenstein was expecting to be fired. But here is what Mr. Trump told reporters today, right here in New York City.
No, I'm meeting with Rod Rosenstein on Thursday when I get back from all of these meetings, and we'll be meeting at the White House. I spoke with Rod today, and we're going to have a meeting on Thursday when I get back to the White House.
As you heard there, with Rosenstein's job hanging in the balance, the president is scheduled to meet personally with him on Thursday, which is a really important day because Thursday is also when the president's embattled Supreme Court pick, Brett Kavanaugh, and the woman accusing him of sexual assault are scheduled to publicly testify. This as another allegation, this time from Kavanaugh's college years, is surfacing, which Kavanaugh also denies. Moments ago, here's what the president said when asked about Kavanaugh's future.
We hope he's going to be confirmed. He's a fine, fine man, a great scholar, great at everything he's ever done. And it would be sad indeed if something happened to reroute that. This is a fine man, and we certainly hope he's going to be confirmed. And
so here we have the future of the Russia investigation, the future of the Supreme Court, and by extension, the future of the Trump presidency, all potentially colliding later this week. We don't know what the president is going to do, but it feels like both sides are preparing for a worst-case scenario right now. Ben Wittes is an MSNBC legal analyst and editor-in-chief of Lawfare. He joins tonight's panel. Nick Confessore, political reporter at the New York Times and an MSNBC political analyst. Susan Del Percio, Republican strategist and also an MSNBC political analyst. And Jason Johnson, politics editor at TheRoot.com and, you guessed it, an MSNBC contributor. Welcome to everybody. Ben Wittes, there are people out there who are floating the shiny object theory, which is that the president and his team seeded this doubt about Rosenstein, talked to reporters, told him he was coming in to resign at the White House in order to distract from what would have been and has been a truly bad day for Brett Kavanaugh in terms of another allegation coming to light.
I tend to think that gives them a little bit too much credit for strategy. The word that you used earlier was chaos, and I think that combining chaos with that kind of strategic shiny object diversion thinking is probably not right. I don't know that, but I suspect that this was more of a chaos situation than a deliberate misdirection.
It certainly would be a dangerous game, though, if that's what he was doing, trying to distract or having the subject of a Russia... let me get this straight. The subject of the Russia investigation, firing the person who oversees the Russia investigation to help someone he thinks might clear him of the Russia investigation. It is hard to keep track of, but that's basically what could have been happening according to people who believe that the president has a strategy here when there's bad news.
Look, I think that whenever you say that something is happening in a specific hour that is part of some grand plan, you're usually wrong. This is a White House that struggles to implement their own intentional grand plans on matters of great importance to them.
Right. Why, though, are they scheduling the Rosenstein meeting, which is going to be discussed and going to be analyzed in the days to come and will be looked at with great interest on Thursday the same day that Kavanaugh will be testifying. I mean, that to you doesn't seem intentional?
I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it might just be an issue of convenience. Look, if you think that you've got a full hand, if they think that they've got control of the narrative of these situations, I don't think Rod Rosenstein is going to get fired by the president on Thursday. I think he called his bluff today. I think this is just going to be a conversation. The president will say, I don't know where this got out, blah, 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 you're going to be fine. And I also suspect that the Republicans are at least hoping to. And again, this is if Thursday goes down the way we think it does. We don't know if Ms. Ramirez will be there. We don't know what happens with Michael Avenatti having someone else that might come into the place. So right now it's just convenience. I don't think it's a grand strategy because what could happen in the next 48 hours could completely change Thursday's conversation.
No doubt about that. One thing is for sure, both sides believe this Rosenstein news, the president getting rid of him or him resigning, is a trap for obviously different reasons. Let's listen to the right and the left on this.
They want the president to fire Rosenstein now, to blow up the entire Kavanaugh hearings, to have Republicans running for the hills.
I have a message for the president tonight. Under zero circumstances should the president fire anybody.
If you were laying a trap for Donald Trump, this might be exactly how you do it.
The fact that these steps, the firing of Comey, pushing out Rod Rosenstein, whether it's done now or later, the firing of the Attorney General apparently seems contemplated after the election. These are, in their cumulative form, the same as the Saturday Night Massacre, and all designed for the same end, and that is to give the president direct control over investigation in which he may be implicated.
It's a trap to go after Trump. No, it's a trap to go after Mueller.
Well, I guess they're all out to get Donald Trump, and that's the end of it. No, seriously, actually, I think that there's a unique opportunity here for some of the members, for some of the senators, like Susan Collins, like Senator Flake, like Senator Murkowski and Senator Corker, to simply say, we will not even consider your Supreme Court justice pick unless you put a vote to the floor that will protect the Mueller investigation. It went out of committee, I think it was something like 10 to 4, that it could go on a vote tomorrow. They hold the keys. They can do this. And we know Mitch McConnell wants the court as his legacy. They should get this out there. It's good for them in the midterm elections. It's good politics. It happens to be good policy.
Do they want to do that? Is there any indication that Murkowski or Collins would want to do that?
I don't think so, because first of all, it will totally tick off the president. It will make him furious. What they have tried to do so far in the Senate is push him off gently from the idea of firing Jeff Sessions or firing Rod Rosenstein.
And that's working out really well.
And just hope he doesn't. They're just hoping he doesn't do it so that they don't look bad having not stopped it in the first place. So far, it's more or less worked out for them, more or less.
Hold on, let's get back to Rosenstein specifically, and what might be at play here with the president. You have Fox News saying, no, Mr. President, do not fire Rod Rosenstein, it's a trap. You have the Democrats saying, if you fire Rosenstein, it's a trap. But then you have the president's attorney, Jay Sekulow, arguing something different and something that could, in theory, help the president with the Mueller investigation. This is from his own radio show today.
If, in fact, Rod Rosenstein does end up resigning today because of his statements that he's made, I think it's clearly becomes necessary and appropriate for whoever the person that's put in charge of this, in other words, whoever becomes the Deputy Attorney General acting, which may be the Solicitor General, I think it's really important that there be a step back taken here and a review. And I think it's a review that has to be thorough and complete. Basically, a timeout on this inquiry.
I mean, that certainly would help
the president. That's insane. This is the president's private attorney trying to discuss and interfere with government affairs, with government business. That's absurd. And what I think part of the trap may be is the trap of falling into obstruction. And having his attorney kind of help and edge him there is insane.
Ben, should we read into it, though? He's saying resigning. Is there a reason he's saying resign instead of fire?
Yeah, I think there is, which is that, you know, I think all day today, the press that was relying on the White House sources was saying that Rod Rosenstein is offering his resignation, has orally resigned, and the press that was relying on Justice Department sources said, wait a minute, if he's disappearing, it's because he's going to get fired. He's not resigning. And so I think what you see when Mr. Sekulow says that is that the White House and the president's legal staff is trying to make any Rosenstein departure look like a kind of voluntary thing that he did, leaving with his tail between his legs after the New York Times story on Friday. And that appears to be not true. It appears to be that Rod Rosenstein is not willingly leaving, and that he has, for now at least, called their bluff and said, if you're getting rid of me, it's because you're firing me. So I think, I think Sekulo's comments are a part of a larger message that was a kind of White House spin that actually didn't work.
For the record, the White House has often tried to say people are resigning when they've actually fired them.
Right, and that's the scam. And he caught them. He caught them. He called their bluff. If you're going to fire me, you're going to have to say it to my face. We know the president probably won't do that to him. And that's really what this was. And I also think the grand scheme of this is I think all of these guys' jobs are probably at risk after the midterms. That's the truth. I think there's probably going to be a clearinghouse anyway. But I think long term, and this is the part that I don't think some Republicans seem to understand about the Mueller investigation, as much as Mueller is a thorn in their side, and he's this slow-moving sort of Damocles of this entire administration, the fact of the matter is, while he has been on this investigation, Republicans have been able to spend more time actually doing their jobs. And if Mueller is not engaging this investigation, then that means the leaking starts again. Then that means every sort of individual person with an axe to grind starts going off and investigating this administration again. It's actually cleaner with Mueller doing his job than it was beforehand. I really think it would be in their best interest to let this guy stay there, because at the end of the day, if they keep this in it, he can't be impeached anyway.
What do you think of that?
It's actually a great idea. Yeah. Let the guy finish his job. And it's, in fact, what Republicans in Congress have been saying, or the sane ones have been saying all along. Just let him do his job.
Then why won't they pass legislation to protect him?
Because it would be an affront to the president,
right?
And it would start a war with the president. Just remember, this party and this president have a lot they are working on together, despite appearances sometimes. They're about to cement a conservative hold on the nation's courts that will last a generation. They passed a big tax cut. There is a lot of policy commonality. There is a lot of good
you say passed
at
a
the
big
party.
Tax cut that happened a year ago now.
Right, well, it's still there, right?
Yeah.
The party is getting a lot out of the Trump presidency. Starting a battle with the White House and sticking their thumb in the eye is not in their interest.
Right. Except for maybe the House that's probably going to go down because Donald Trump has offended more independents, more women than anyone could have possibly counted on. He has put them in almost a political death spiral, if you will, that now they're even worried about the Senate, which was almost unthinkable 6 months ago. And that's because on things like Kavanaugh, where we thought the president was being so good on Friday by not talking, but by Friday late morning, he had to open his mouth. You have Roy Moore opening his mouth. Donald Trump does it again today. The president is not the character witness you want on an issue of sexual...
Why have the Republicans... Hold on. Why have the Republicans... And to get on Kavanaugh for one brief second before we go back to Mueller, why have the Republicans switched from being on the side of wanting to hear from somebody who's saying that they are a victim to now claiming that this is all a big conspiracy?
I think that there's a few issues at hand. I think that they wanted to have the hearing with Dr. Ford, but they felt that some of them felt that it kind of got moved around and they were kind of jumping through hoops for her. Then you add the second accuser, which no one substantiated her comments. She's not even sure of exactly what happened, and I think that also infuriated people, that this was a story that came out.
Back to Mueller, one last question to Ben Wittes. What is Mueller thinking when he's looking at this coverage, when he's seeing news that Rod Rosenstein might be fired, might resign? What is he thinking? Is he thinking about a document dump? Is he trying to protect the information that he's already been able to compile? What's going on within the Mueller team?
So I don't know the answer to that question, and anybody who would claim to, you shouldn't trust. But here's what I will say. One of the things that this serial dance about firing Jeff Sessions and firing Rod Rosenstein has given Bob Mueller is a lot of time. And he's had a lot of time to think about how would the environment change if Jeff Sessions were fired? How would the environment change if Rod Rosenstein were fired? How would the environment change if the president ordered somebody to act against me? And so whatever Bob Mueller is thinking, he's had a lot of time to prepare and figure out exactly what his action sequence would be under any of those circumstances. And I think one person who knew how he was going to play his hand today when we all thought Rod Rosenstein was not going to survive the day was Bob Mueller.
I always trust someone more who's willing to say, I don't know. Ben Wittes, thank you so much for joining the panel. Nick, Susan, and Jason stay with us. Ahead.